An entertainment icon, visibly upset by the way that he was treated by the people in the business that he worked for on his way out. That's right. Justice for Tiny Chef. What Nickelodeon did to you, I am still very upset about. But also Goldberg.
Yeah, Goldberg's here as well. Less about that annoying little prick.
Oh, don't you fall out with me.
Tiny Chef.
Bello. Don't you dare. Right, let's talk about Goldberg instead then if you really want.
Yeah, he's been speaking to Ariel Helwani and he's quite pissed off about that retirement match he had at the weekend against Gunther there at Saturday Night's Main Event.
Very upset by it. So it was Goldberg's last match. He lost in the rear naked choke and then said goodbye before he was played off like Keyboard Cat, as we said yesterday. And he was asked about it by Ariel Helwani and he said, let's just say I'm pissed off at the way I went out because I put so much into it and I don't feel as though the effort was reciprocated to put a stamp on what I have accomplished. Again, I am not going to say that I'm not ecstatic about the opportunity I got. I think it could have been done a little bit differently.
WrestleMania, I guess that's what is happening there, isn't it?
Possibly. maybe speaking more towards this. But his issues with the match aren't really the match itself, but everything around it, including the build-up.
Yeah, he says, I would have loved for them to announce it in January and have it build up to it and do something like that. I thought it was maybe worthy of my career, but let's just say they chose to do it with 3 weeks' notice. It's just like Evolution as well.
A little bit like Evolution.
It is what it is, man. It's part of the meal you get dealt. I would be remiss in thinking that I thought the meal would be different, but shame on me for thinking it would have been different.
So let's unscramble a bit of that word salad. So kind of what he's saying there is that he knew from his background as a WCW guy, and obviously the relationship that he has with Paul Levesque not being the best of relationships from over the years we have seen, he kind of knew that he was gonna get somewhat of the thick end of the wedge going into this, and do you know what? I absolutely agree with a guy like that. If you can separate sort of where that star was born, he is a name, he is a star, and you could have built that more than just 3 weeks' notice. And you're so right in that you say it's the same as Evolution. It's almost as if WWE just shoehorned this block of content in just to try and scupper some other lads doing a show at a stadium in Texas.
Yeah, and I know there'll be a lot of people going like, oh, Goldberg's been horrible for years now. But yes, the latter day stuff with when the Vince McMahon era was still going on and Goldberg was beating the Fiend, for example, nobody likes that. But the stuff that Goldberg did up until 2004 when he left the first time around, you kind of take that away from the guy.
He's an iconic name, and that is justified by the fact that there was a bump in the Netflix viewership for the Raw that he was on going into Saturday Night's Main Event. So there is an allure and an intrigue still around him, despite some of the weird mistakes they have made as WWE have pressed the Goldberg button over the last 7 or 8 years. But as you say, you've got that history there of a guy who was front and center of one of the most important times in wrestling. And yeah, I think he probably did deserve more than a 3-week build to a match on free television.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Obviously, he doesn't like the free TV bit, but obviously the bit that would really have ground his gears, as we'll get onto a little bit later, is how the retirement speech went down.
Yeah, more on that in a bit. But on the subject of the match being on free TV, Goldberg told Ariel Helwani, yeah, I can't say I was too thrilled about that part. You always have your dreams on how you're going to do things, and ultimately to have a little bit more control over the time and the space would have been much more preferred. Let's just put it that way. He went on to say that he would, quote, 100% have preferred his final match to be on a premium live event. And I think I would have as well.
Yeah, it's a retirement match. It's Goldberg.
Yeah.
Come on now. But it is a little bit ironic that a Goldberg match, especially in 2025, went over 14 minutes. And then his retirement speech was cut for time.
Yeah.
After a match that was cut for time, obviously, with Seth Rollins' unfortunate injury. It's just really ironic the way it's played out.
Yeah, you did not need that match to be as long as it was for what was needed for that. But it should have been on a PLE. Like, I love the idea that you could have built one of the other premium live events that weren't one of the big 4 or 5, if you count Money in the Bank, around Goldberg's main event match. Goldberg and Gunther could have happily main evented a show, and you could have done it there, and I think it would have done really well for them. But then you'd have to have them truly like embrace in the weeks and weeks leading up to it the Goldberg legacy, which they have done to some extent. But I feel like the 3-week run and build to it. I mean, some will argue that it hasn't been 3 weeks because they had that thing at Bad Blood last year.
But you didn't hear about it for months, did you?
Yeah, it was just something that was just kind of filed away. We might touch on that again in a little bit. So the match itself happened, and then we had the speech, and then they ran out of time before the speech finished. WWE uploaded the entire thing onto YouTube, but boy, Goldberg had some things to say about that too.
Freaking 20 seconds with the microphone in my hand. For God's sake, everything throughout the years has built up to something like the ultimate rib. I guess that was the ultimate rib, right? I'm not saying it was done on purpose by any stretch of the imagination. I'm saying that it wasn't prepared for on purpose. That's all. I think that's a crucial difference, isn't it? They wouldn't do that to Taker, right? I don't think so. They're not going to do that to Cena. Cena's going all around the world doing his retirement thing. Mine was just a World Heavyweight Championship match.
Yeah, and I can see why there's that frustration there. Like, he's looking at these fully homegrown WWE guys who got these massive send-offs for their career. And you have Goldberg, who didn't so much. And I think I want to point out as well, because we picked some bits out of this interview, but there are bits throughout it, and you'll hear some bit coming up very shortly, where Goldberg is just like, look, I'm glad that we did it, and I'm honoured that we did it. I just wish we could have done it in a bigger way. I just wish we could have gone more for it. I feel like there was a lot, and I'm kind of with Goldberg in the sense that I feel like there was a lot of money left on the table for how they could have done it.
Yeah.
And I feel like that they, for whatever reason, whether they just went, oh, Goldberg's retirement, that's a handy thing that we can just slot in here on the road to SummerSlam. But really, it's a big, meaty, it's not a side dish, it's a main course.
Yeah.
In a grander scheme of things. You could have done so much more with it. Now, Fightful Select have reported that a WWE higher-up denied to them that WWE intentionally or maliciously cut off Goldberg's retirement speech on Saturday night's main event after Goldberg's retirement. And the fact that they've had to come out and say that since that interview went live says something, where someone, is it like Goldberg's line about it being the ultimate rib has obviously, got people thinking, conspiracy theory hat on, they never liked Goldberg anyway because he was a WCW guy, he did that on purpose.
It's the way it went down as well, because obviously the final fall for the match happens, Gunther chokes him out, and then we go to a commercial break, which I think lasted somewhere in the region of 4 minutes, and then we come back to the retirement speech, and then it's cut off after 20 seconds.
Yeah.
Why? There surely could have been a little pivot made by WWE or NBC, whoever makes the call on the night, not to have such a long advert break when you know that's coming up next.
And also, it's not like the advert breaks came as a surprise. Like, they would have planned and plotted the show around the advert breaks. So it wasn't like it crept up on them. Just the timing was rotten on WWE's part, and you feel like that because maybe it was Goldberg, whatever.
Yeah.
A little bit maybe. Now, Goldberg also points out there's a spot in the match where he's chopped by Gunther and he starts laughing.
It's Goldberg, of course he laughs at the people chopping him.
He actually apologised for that on Ariel Helwani Show.
Yeah, he says, I laughed when he chopped me, but I didn't know what to expect. You feel those chops throughout your career a little bit, and they're loud. Man, it looks like they hurt. I thought it was going to hurt me, that's all. And it just startled me. Could you imagine saying that about Gunther chop? And I didn't mean to do that. I really apologise because I didn't mean that. That's a rib. I'm not trying to downplay his move. That just caught me off guard, and I completely broke character.
He said,
a little bit of a tickle.
I will say, he said, I thought it was going to hurt more rather than hurt me. So he did say it hurt, but I think maybe, so in Goldberg's mind, he's going, I was braced for this to be like a heart-stopping chop. And then when I was like, I'm still alive, hey! Like, the same rush of euphoria that you feel when you go skydiving, one would assume, I'm still here, hey!
I mean, it's one thing, if Akira Tozawa was doing this sort of reaction off Gunther, it's one thing, but it's Goldberg bad for goodness. I know he's 58 years old, but it's still Goldberg.
Yeah.
I thought the shoe fit in that moment then. It was a nice little moment of the match, because Gunther still came out on top looking very, 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 very strong.
Yeah, he choked the guy out, so there's no issue there. He praised Gunther, did Goldberg. He said, the kid's extremely talented, and man, what I'd love to have a chop fest with him and have 10 more of those matches, because each one you do with them is better. It was an honour to work with the kid, and I really am appreciative of him helping me out and making this old man look like he could do some stuff. Goldberg did praise the match in general, though.
Yeah, he says there were moments in the match where I actually enjoyed myself. I can't say I've done that very many times, so for that and a plethora of other little reasons, I think I had a good time at Saturday night.
I think it was a good match.
Yeah.
I think they had fun.
I thought apart from the retirement speech, it was everything that should have been for a retirement match for someone like Goldberg. Like, he had his moments there. He got the jackhammer in, despite the dodgy shoulder and the dodgy knee. He got a spear in as well. The little moment of hope, and then Gunther just takes takes the wind out the sail, so to speak, and beats him. I thought, apart from the speech part, it was everything it should have been.
Yeah, and the ad breaks, I think, really sort of took some of the wind out of the sails a little bit. I'd be intrigued to watch that in the arena, where you've just got them just hanging around waiting for the ad break to finish.
Yeah.
Jeez. Now, another interesting little tidbit that came from this chat with Ariel Helwani is that WWE actually reached out to Gage, Goldberg's son, and offered him a WWE Next in Line contract. Goldberg spoke on this. The answer was very surprising.
Yeah, he says, when I found out how much they were going to give him, I put the brakes on that one, but they would be ignorant if they didn't have an idea that it could be in his future. So I guess that's just a commentary on how much NIL people get paid, rather than like, he's not going to go there ever, because eventually, I imagine he plays football, didn't he? Just like Bill did way back in the day. Yeah. So I imagine once that's done, he'll probably go back and get a better deal than the NIL deal.
I think he probably will, and I think that Goldberg obviously knows his value, and he knows that the value of what the value of his son could be. So he's stepping in and going, "No, you're not signing that yet."
And I bet all the people behind the scenes in there are like, "Damn, the guy who's been in the business telling a child what to do.
We could have got it for 9p if he hadn't been there that day." This interview with Ariel Helwani is fascinating, because throughout it you see, whilst Goldberg is very complimentary of many of the elements of the match, there is an element of holding back from Goldberg on a few occasions, and he does buffer a lot of the more negative words with some praise, saying like, "I'm glad they did it. I'm honoured to have done it. I'm honoured to have been a part of it." He alludes to choosing his words carefully, saying that he will be able to reveal all in about 2 weeks' time in terms of how the whole process went down. He'll speak more on it in a fortnight.
Yeah, he touched on a little bit of how talk started in November when they initially did that segment with Gageberg and Goldberg and Gunther. So obviously there's something happened in that time from November to now that hasn't gone the way that Goldberg was maybe told it was going to go initially.
So I assume in 2 weeks' time, maybe his Legends deal ends, which is why he's saying
signs with AEW.
He signs with AEW.
I'm joking.
So I'm expecting some major verbal bombs to be dropped in about 2 weeks' time on some platform by Bill Goldberg. It'll probably be Ariel Helwani. So it'll probably be Ariel Helwani going, "Right, now I can tell you what really happened.
Let me save up for a couple of weeks, Bill, then I'll give you a big payday, and then we'll get the bloody shoot interview out there."
Do check out the rest of the chat with Ariel Helwani and Goldberg, because a fascinating conversation, and I do believe it is just the beginning of some very interesting conversation around Goldberg and WWE. Some good stuff to come. For the very latest wrestling news at any time, you can check out Cultaholic.com. Stay safe and love you. Bye.